Guys ready? All right. Well, I'm attorney Demario Solomon Simmons, and along with my co-counsel, David Riggs, we have the honor and the pleasure to represent the parents of Joshua Harvey. This is his mother, Roma Presley, and to my right is his father, Tony Presley. Unfortunately, we are representing them because Joshua was a victim of excessive force at the hands of the Tulsa Police Department. On August 24th, 2018, Joshua had an encounter with 4 officers at the Arvest Bank. During that encounter, Joshua was tased, according to TPD's own records, 27 times in approximately 2 minutes. 27 times with a total seconds of 64 seconds. This is excessive on his face. In addition to him being tased 27 times, he was also tased simultaneously by 2 officers, which is against Tulsa Police Department policies, and it's also, again, excessive on his face. So the information that we've received over the last month has been kind of slowly being provided to us. We've had to file open records requests. We've had to file subpoenas or serve subpoenas through the probate lawsuit. Initially, when Joshua was rendered unconscious subsequent to his interaction with TPD, no one contacted the family. And Joshua was in the hospital for 3 days unconscious, or 2 days unconscious, until someone actually contacted the family, even though TPD had the information for Joshua. They knew who he was, and they had every opportunity to contact the family. Once the family was contacted on the 26th, they were told he was brain dead, had been so since the 24th. He dies on the 27th once they take him off the ventilator. On the 28th, August 28th, the parents go to TPD right across the street at the main location, asking for information about what happened to Joshua. At that point, they were told that TPD had no record of what happened to Joshua. There were no reports. They just didn't know what was going on. That lasted for 3-4 more days until that Friday after the 1st, when we made a plea to the media for TPD to be transparent and provide information. And then and only then did they TPD acknowledged what happened to Joshua and provided some of the body cameras. But that didn't give us enough information. So we had to submit an open records request to ask for additional information, specifically the use of force reports. And I provided you in our packet of information the use of force reports, just in case you did not have that. But then they still didn't provide the taser information, or the taser data information. So we had to follow up on that. And we finally received that information last week. And it verified that Joshua was tased 27 times. He was tased 16 times by Officer Nigel Harris, and he was tased 11 times by Officer Stephen Douglas. It's important that we understand and we remember that Officer Nigel Harris was an officer in training. He had only been on the force or out in the streets for 3 weeks, and yet he's tasing individuals 16 times. 16 times. The video also shows that Joshua, as he's tased, and once he was on the ground for the majority, if not all, but maybe 3 of the actual deployments. He was on the ground, he was unarmed, he was not resisting. The movement that we see in the video is the movement of him being tased repeatedly over and over and over. The other officers, 2 other officers, had every opportunity to handcuff Joshua. Once they did get him handcuffed, they allowed him to lay on his chest for over almost 10 minutes. He's laying on his chest. He's handcuffed with his hands behind his back. He has blood on his face because he did get cut by the glass at the Arvest Bank. So he's laying in his blood. And then he goes unconscious. And then and only then did TPD actually pick him up off his face and place him on his side, but he's already unconscious. So we believe that today based on the information that we just discussed and the information that we have, that TPD has proven that they're not going to do the right thing in this investigation. They have not been transparent. They have not placed the individuals who tased Joshua excessively on any type of administrative suspension. In fact, according to published reports, TPD has stated that they will not in any way investigate this further until they get the ME's report, which can take us another 3-4 months. But they don't need to see anything else but the video and the actual reports to say that this was excessive on its face, period. The guidelines, which I provided to you in our Exhibit 3 that's in your packet, the guidelines, I'm sorry, Exhibit 5, it specifically says, and I'm going to read it. If you go to Exhibit 5, and page 18 at the bottom, the pages are numbered. Page 18, which talks about training. Now this document, just so we can be clear, this is a document that kind of sets some standards for how to use tasers. This was a document that was created in conjunction with the United States Department of Justice in 2011. The title of this document is 2011 Electronic Controlled Weapons Guidelines. So going back to page 18 of this document, it says, personnel should be trained to use an ECW or a taser for one standard cycle, 5 seconds, and then evaluate the situation to determine if subsequent cycles are necessary. So I'll stop there. We can see in the video that Joshua was not given any opportunity to do anything because they kept tasing him over and over and over. They never took the time to evaluate, hey, he doesn't need to be tased any longer. They just kept tasing him. In fact, Nigel Harris tased him so many times that Stephen Douglas said, okay, that's enough. Stop tasing him. And these are things you can hear on the video. You don't have to take my word for it. The video is where I'm getting these facts. But as I continue to read, it says training protocols should emphasize that multiple applications or continuous cycling of ECW resulting in exposure longer than 15 seconds, whether continuous or cumulative, may increase the risk of serious injury or death and should be avoided. Now this says 15 seconds. Joshua was tased 64 seconds in approximately 2 minutes. He goes unconscious and goes in cardiac arrest subsequent to that, and we know he dies 3 days later. We believe that the facts already show this was excessive force, and since TPD will not investigate this, since they will not do their job, we are calling on District Attorney Steve Kunzweiler to take over this investigation. He is the chief law enforcement officer here in Tulsa County. He has all the evidence he needs. He has the videos. I provided a copy of everything I provided the media to Mr. Kunzweiler, DA Kunzweiler's office. I've asked him to meet with the family. I asked him to meet with the family. I talked to him personally on September 4th. I followed up with an email on September 5th asking that he would meet with the family. I didn't have a response. I followed up with an email on September 19th, once again saying, hey, we have additional information. Can you please meet with this family? And to this date, to this point right now, we have not heard anything back from the DA's office. So we're asking that the DA step up as the chief law enforcement officer, meet with the family, but more importantly than that, he has enough right now to bring charges against those officers who tased Joshua 27 times. It does not matter what the ME report says. What matters is the video and the reports that show he was tased 27 times as he was unarmed, as he laid on the floor, as he was not a threat to those officers. It is a violation of TPD, their own standards and policies. Our Exhibit 3, which is also something I provided to you and I provided to DA Kunzweiler. If you look at Exhibit 3, which is TPD's procedures on the use of electronic weapons, or tasers, it clearly says, if you look at the second page of Exhibit 3, which is 205 at the top, where it says procedures, and you look at number 5, it says officers shall not simultaneously deploy CEWs on one individual. I repeat, TPD's own procedure says officers shall not simultaneously deploy CEWs on one individual. It is undisputed that Joshua was tased by 2 officers at the same time. That is a violation of their own procedure. In Oklahoma law, which I provided you with our Exhibit 4, Oklahoma law found at 22 OS 34.1b says, the use of excessive force shall be resumed when a peace officer continues to apply physical force in excess of the force permitted by law or said policies and guidelines to a person who has been rendered incapable of resisting arrest. In other words, Oklahoma law says when you violate written policies of a police department, you have committed excessive force, which is a crime. This is the information, this is the evidence that DA Kunzweiler has at his disposal right now today. And this is why we're asking, this family is asking, that these officers who perpetrated this crime against Joshua, charges be filed against them immediately, and that the DA's office meets with these victims. These are victims of crimes. These parents are the victims of the crimes of these officers. And the DA's office should meet with these parents. They should assign a victims coordinator to these parents and move forward this case on a criminal track. You have the information we provided. The DA has this information. At this time, I'd like to allow my co-counsel, David Riggs, to make some comments.
Well, certainly the most important and immediate need is for an independent, a comprehensive and thorough, and I emphasize honest investigation of what happened. We cannot expect that to be done by the very people in department responsible for what happened. It's got to be done by some outside independent agency, and clearly Kunzweiler has that obligation at this point. And that's why we're waiting today for a response, and it's been overdue, we feel.
But this went to him today?
Yes.
Okay.
But this is not the first contact with, as Mr. Solomon Simmons explained.
Ms. Preston, come on.
Yes. I'm here because I feel that we're way overdue for justice. I feel that we've been totally ignored. We come from a small community high school. We travel into Tulsa. I can't drive to the stores or anywhere afraid that I don't know if the officers is gonna stop me or not. I don't know who's who, what's happening. Please get justice and figure out what the situation is, which I'm sure Mr. Kunzweiler know what the situation is, and fight for justice for my son, Joshua Harvey. Justice has to be served. There's no way around it. And I ask y'all to truly pray for me and my family as we struggle through these difficult times, grieving when we can grieve without worrying about what the DA is going to do. Thank you.
Mr. Preston.
Yes, like my wife said, we just want justice for Joshua. If my son done anything wrong, he was confronted by the police. If he done anything wrong, take him into custody. Sort out whatever wrongdoing he did. We understand that. But if the officers have done anything wrong, where is their justice to put them in the same predicament my son is? If the officers do anything wrong, let them get taken off duty, reprimanded, whatever it needs to be. That's all we want. We just want justice for Joshua.
We'll take just a few questions.
But, since you're there, Mr. President, nothing I can do to certainly appreciate your loss. My sympathies to the family. This is obviously a difficult, complex situation. Joshua was not at his best that day. The police officers obviously have responsibility. Does he share some responsibility here?
No.
What, can you answer
Yeah.
that, Ron? That's obviously gonna come up at trial.
Sure. The responsibility are those who are trained, who go through the police academy, who are certified through CLEAT, who are then as a trainer, officer in training for a year on the street, who has the trust and the respect of the community to be peace officers, to do their job. No one has a problem with what happened with Joshua when they first came into contact with him, right? They were doing their job when they talked to him in the street originally. But they did not do their job. They broke the law when they excessively, unnecessarily, and illegally tased him 27 times in a period of approximately 2 minutes.
Do you think there's a motivation here? Was it malicious? Was it poor training? Was it bad judgment? What do you think? What do you think is the linchpin?
You know, we don't know what the linchpin is. That's what this investigation needs to show. But what we do know is there's a violation of policy. We do know that violation of policy also is a violation of the law. And as Mr. Presley stated, we believe in equal justice under the law, regardless of who you are. And if you are an officer and you break the law, you should be treated the same way as any other citizen. And I believe strongly that if the DA's office had a video footage of any other citizen breaking the law, that individual will be charged appropriately and prosecuted appropriately as soon as the DA had that evidence. We have provided that evidence to the DA's office just in case he did not see it the same way you guys at the media have provided it to the citizens of Tulsa.
What about the concept that one of the tasers was not working on it? For me, I wasn't thinking about it when I read through all the documentation today. Is it possible that they thought they were only using one taser because one was not acting properly?
We don't believe that's possible at all. They were both tasing him at the same time. The documents show that both tasers were working. Anything that they may have known after the fact is just that, after the fact. We're talking about what happened then. It's easy to go back afterwards and create a story, create facts that's beneficial for you. But we're talking about what we saw in the video, what we heard in the video, and what the objective data shows. Not the written reports, but what the objective data shows. That's what we look at. We're lawyers. We look at facts. We're not going into motivation. We're looking at the facts of the issue.
And they're deploying what is intended to be a non-lethal method. They don't have the training manual in front of them. Is it possible that they just simply didn't understand what they were doing?
You know, I can't say what's possible. I can't say what's in their mind. All I can say is what the facts show us. And the facts show us that they tased Joshua 27 times, which is illegal. It's excessive on his face. The fact shows that Joshua was unarmed, that he was able to be subdued, and they didn't do their job correctly. And when you don't do your job correctly, as a lawyer, when I don't do my job correctly, I'm accountable to that. The consequences for that. Unfortunately, in this situation, these parents are grieving a son that's no longer here. But the individuals who tased Joshua 27 times, where's their accountability?
This has happened before in Tulsa where there was an underlying health condition that a taser exacerbated that. Did he have any underlying health? I apologize if you've already answered this. Did he have any kind of health condition that would have been, I don't know, exacerbated by this situation?
At this time, our focus is the excessive force. Our focus is the 27 tasing. Our focus is the fact that these officers have not been held accountable for something that, according to their own policy, is a violation. And our focus is what we want to see the DA's office focus on that issue alone right now and say this was excessive on its face and it's a crime and it should be prosecuted as such.
That's a no?
So no enlarged heart or anything that you know of?
As I stated, that's our focus.
Okay.
In recent years, Tulsa PD has undergone what they claim to be community policing initiatives. Do you feel that this incident is an outlier or this is indicative of the culture of TPD?
Well, in our experience, this is something that has happened before in TPD. Just a couple years ago, there was a gentleman that was tased and subsequently died. And his family went through the same things where the family was not notified until media pressure, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So in our experience, this is something that we see often with TPD. And that's why we believe, in general, that anytime there is a use of force that results in serious injury or death, that there should be an outside agency that should that investigate these things. Because the public, we deserve to know and have confidence in investigations and be able to feel safe in our persons, in our cars, in our homes, that if something does go wrong, if somebody does break the law, if somebody does break policy, that there will be transparency and there will be accountability. You cannot have justice without transparency and accountability. Thank you.
They did have good contact information?
That's it. All right. Appreciate you guys coming down.